All right, guys, welcome back. I'm Megan Kieran. Welcome back to the Ohm Light. Today, I have a very special guest. His name is Kevin. And Kevin, can you please introduce yourself, who you are, and kind of your background?
Sure. Delighted to be here, Megan. Thanks for inviting me. I'm an intuitive coach. That's just the latest label I picked for what I do. Essentially, I help people who are maybe stuck someplace in life, going through that dark night of the soul, to create a safe envelope for them to express through that and to face and release the fears so that they can start to reconnect with their own internal guidance. Something I discovered 18 years ago when I had a brain tumor, which I didn't believe there was anything outside of me. And that became the transition point where suddenly spiritual material started showing up. Abraham Hicks was the first, but there's been many after that. And so that journey in myself then became, once I understood that I was creating the reality and that I had guidance I could tune into and that anything was possible, then that sort of evolved the passion to then help others through the same journey and then help them find their guidance so they can find what they want to do that brings them the highest joy. And then it's like when you do that, the whole mechanism just kind of takes care of itself. So whatever way I can help someone that aligns with me is basically what I do.
I love that. That's so interesting. And it seems that, your the brain tumor was the huge catalyst for you in opening this whole world of the unseen energies around us. And really love how you touched upon creating your reality. How has that shifted your landscape in your life? I guess since that awakening point, what was the domino effect of that?
Discovering essentially what we call the law of attraction or law of vibration, that kind of thing. Yeah. Well, it shifts everything, really. You have to face a lot of your limiting beliefs. You have
Yeah.
to face the idea that if it's in your life, there's a level of your energy that created it. And we're a big society of blame and criticism and control and judgment because people don't know that. And so if I'm suffering, I didn't do anything to cause this. It's got to be somebody else's fault. And so then let's attack them or let's hold them responsible. And all that does, from a law of attraction standpoint, is attract more of that experience until you finally get exhausted and give up and go take a walk, and then your alignment comes back. You get the impulse to a positive thing, but people are doing it by default. So uh, learning that, and we had learned about the law of attraction. My wife and I are on a similar journey with this. We got married in 2007. And in 2006, we came across a movie called The Secret, which was really the modern day precursor to this broader material. It's not a complete movie, and they left out a bunch of stuff that I think put some people in the wrong direction, quote unquote. Not that there is such a thing, but the idea of that, and then the brain tumor in 2008, and then the Abraham Hicks workshops and channeled material showed up with the pure information. It's like suddenly, it's like if this is really true, then there's nothing I can't be or do or have, as they say over and over again. But then, so why am I not getting what I want? Why am I not fulfilled? Why don't I have all the money that I want? Why is my health still? Why do I have a brain tumor? Well, okay, I see now how I created that unintentionally because I was dwelling on uh, resentment was really the energy. Tumors are about getting stuck in an old sad story of powerlessness, of victimhood. And so the body reflected that to me because I didn't know that before this happened. And so, okay, I can take ownership of that. And then as other things come along, okay, I can take ownership of that. I don't like it. It still feels like somebody else is doing this to me. But at the core, now my intuition knows, yes, Kevin, this is a message for you to help you to get out of the rut that you've created just through life experiences that you learned. And we learn it from our parents or our surroundings, to be
Right.
victims. That whole thing then opens up a path of possibilities, and no matter what barrier shows up and how bad things get in the moment, I always have that spark that says you're creating this for a reason. There's a reflection here. There's something to learn. And once you let go of the blame and the stress and the anger, then the solution will present itself, and it always does.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it seems like being more mindful is what really gets things moving, and the awareness of things, I think is super key in order to look at how you have been in order to change that and stop essentially being a victim, right? Because we aren't victims. We have control. And I think taking our power back is something huge. And I would love to hear kind of, your healing journey as well, and how that kind of integrated with your change of mindset at that turning point.
Hmm. Well, that was a long journey. Just for anybody who's listening, you don't suddenly become spiritually aware and then life, everything, every corner gets good, because you have layers and layers of recordings of victimhood and trauma and so forth. And they are running our lives. And so, one of the things that helped me the most, I think, in this process was truly accepting that the emotions, the feelings that I was having, which I had suppressed a lot in my childhood because of emotional attacks and verbal assaults and all that traumatized me as a young child. So you tend to put a wall around your heart and you go up into your head, become intellectual, and then you kind of get around life. But the emotional guidance is spiritual guidance. So what it helped me to do, probably more importantly than anything else, is to put the walls down, let go of the feeling of not being safe. And I've had lots and lots of channeling sessions and spiritual guidance and so forth that keep telling me that you are safe, dad's out of the picture and everything's good. And then as I then tuned into the feelings and started making decisions based on how they feel as opposed to how they logically made sense, then suddenly everything else clicked in. So if there's any one thing that I got from all of this experience, that transition point was that I have to become one with my body, which is where the feelings are, and start moving my attention from my intellect and the chatter, the monkey that's jumping around in there, down into the presence in the now moment of the heart. And when I do that, it doesn't take long before the next idea from higher consciousness can come through, because I'm on that radio station now. That's where that radio station is. It's in the heart. But that's probably the biggest thing that came from that. And now it's just refining that process. It's just facing the next fear that comes up, the next, unworthiness stream that showed up that I didn't know was there, and then facing into that, taking the hit, going down, but not judging it, not telling the story of it, and then it's gone. But that's this iterative cycle, as they say, rinse, repeat, over and over again.
Yeah, it's like the more you unlayer, the more, there is residual stuff that's there.
Yeah, I think forever, really. I mean, I think that's the point of being in the body, is that it's those extreme going from the darkness to the light is where creativity exists. It's where the creation expansion of the universe exists, in that gap between the unwanted and the wanted. And we're here for the deep, dark, transformative, immense journey from deep darkness to fantastic light, better than in any other place. And you can only do it in a physically disconnected environment, because when you're spiritual, I mean, there's only here and there's only now, and you're all connected. So you don't have the levels of contrast and variety to pick from.
Right.
So that's the advantage of being physical. That's why we chose to create this environment. That's why we're here exploring our deep, dark themes, is because the whole universe expands as we go through this. So we're really on the leading edge, as you say, or bleeding edge in some cases.
I I'm getting upgraded by just everything that you're speaking on, so I'm sure everyone else is as well.
Oh.
There's just so much to unpack here, but the fact that, you know, you're bringing it back to the purpose of being in our bodies is a theme that keeps reoccurring for me as well. We haven't felt safe in our bodies as a collective, I feel like, right? Because of so much generational trauma, ancestral trauma, survival mode. It's almost like there's this like fight or flight mode that like people are stuck in. And now this whole awakening that everyone's going through, in my opinion, is because of this increase of frequency on the planet. So as we evolve, the planet evolves, right? And or vice versa, right? Chicken or egg. And so as we're shifting upwards with the planet, we're able to unpack and see a lot of things, and we're really bringing more awareness to our body, because we could just be all spiritual and woo woo, or we could just not even have any of that at all. But it's the purpose is to be spirit in the human form. So the connection between the mind, the body, and the heart, right, where the divine kind of is present, I believe, within our bodies, is so important, right? And it's not to discount the mind, it's not to discount the body, but it's to bring all three together. And a lot of people have that wall around their heart. And I love that, analogy, because it makes so much sense. And particularly the masculine energies are having huge awakenings as well, right? Like we have the feminine energies that I feel like, oh, they're spiritual, but everyone has both masculine and feminine, right? But a lot of men are associated with this masculine energy that has, I think, put a bigger wall around, just men in general, and how they fit into society and how they're able to open up their emotions. So I'm actually seeing a lot of people create circles with men. There's women's circles, but there's men's circles now too. And I think it should be everyone, right? Integrated together. But the fact that there's an awakening in that aspect as well is huge. So that's everything kind of that has been coming through as you've been speaking.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfectly stated. We're here to live a physical experience, but from a non-physical guidance perspective. It's the integration of our higher selves and the in the physical body, which has a tactile, passionate, sensual experience. It's
Yeah.
is the best of both worlds when you can get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people in the spiritual community are like, when you first awaken, it's like, oh, why am I in the body? I just want to connect with spirit.
Yeah, let me out of here.
Let me out of, right. And then it's like, then you go through the whole dark night of the soul where you're like, why did I even go through this? I thought it was all butterflies and rainbows, right? So I would also love to hear about, because you mentioned recordings, right? Like little snapshots in your
Mm.
mind. How was your journey in healing those little recordings? And you did mention earlier, like you would tell a client, go outside and take a walk. That's a little like reset type of thing. What are some methods, I guess, of mindfulness, or just to take those thoughts that are on a loop in your head and center them, or at least being able to process them?
Yeah. Well, I think you're articulating it pretty effectively. That is, the key is that you have one attention, and and then you have things vying for that attention. And the brain is a recording playback mechanism of memories, essentially. And it wasn't ever designed to see the future coming. It was designed to see what has already happened and to get around the world, to get you physically around the world. But we've taxed it with all this responsibility, that because we've moved out of the higher guidance, the stream of intuitive guidance in the heart. So there's the more we get in the habit of using the brain and try to logically figure things out, learn things logically so that we can logically apply them and so forth. And there's nothing wrong with that, as you said. Uh, I wrote software for years, and then I was in IT, for decades, and that served me because I had that was safe to me. I could control it, but it
Right.
wasn't all that satisfying. So then the journey then back into the heart again, the idea of safety. That's for me. That was years to get to that point. And it's just knowing what to do, having techniques, as you say. The first thing is to notice that your mind has been taken in the direction of some of those old stories. And you can tell if the story is helpful or hurtful by how it feels. So again, now we got to start paying attention to how the stories feel. Not, oh, I have to think this way, or this is the way we should do it, or this is what I was taught, therefore it's valid. No, your inner guidance, your higher self knows everything that's right for you. You got to start challenging the stories that are playing in your mind. And then the ones that don't feel good, then the interesting thing about the law of attraction, which is just essentially energy attracts like energy, and we're the generators of the energy based on how we focus. And so you also attract thought streams too. And so as you get focused on something, let's say there's a worry, you have a worry about something, nothing really big, but then you get stuck on worry. Well, it's a 15-second window roughly. And it gets shorter and shorter as we evolve as a species, but it's about 15 seconds right now. Where if you stay in the worry state and you dwell on this story that's bringing you worry, about 15 seconds, another stream will be attracted that matches the worry. So now you'll start thinking, instead of worrying about getting your groceries, you'll also start worrying about, well, I'm not going to make it in time for something else, a TV show or something. And if you keep going another 15 seconds, then a third story about worry will show up. And now you start to build momentum. And this is a very simple scientific awareness. I learned all this from the Abraham Hicks teachings. They started at 17 seconds, but that was 40 years ago. So we're down to 15 now.
Wow.
And at about 60 seconds, physicality starts reflecting. It's not thoughts anymore. You start being guided towards things that match worry. You receive impulses on the frequency of worry, not just thought streams, but actual impulses to take you towards things that will create more worry for you, because that's what you're asking the universe for. The universe is dumb in some senses. It's just a vibrational bubble, right? What you send out, you get back. And every higher spiritual teacher will tell you that in some terminology or the other. And there's no judgment about it. It's not, we're not doing anything wrong by going down the worry. The idea is to explore variety. So is to explore, what does it feel like to be really in a worrisome state, and then figure out that I'm doing that, and then come back. And in the coming back, then I built the muscle of awareness. And now I'm a little bit better at it. Next time I'll start to feel worry, it's like, oh, okay, how long am I going to take that on until it hits me in the face with something physical? No, I don't want to go that far. I think I'll just shift my focus, because we have the single focus. You can actually focus anywhere that you want. It's just harder when the momentum is going. That's all.
So your advice maybe is, if you are able to have that awareness to even notice the thought within that
The
50,
feeling behind the
how
thought.
okay, the feeling.
Yeah.
And then the thought.
Well, the thought is creating the feeling. It's like a guitar string. You pluck a guitar string, a sound comes out. The sound doesn't come out unless you pluck the guitar string, right? And so the thought, the focus, is what's creating the vibrational response within you, and the emotions are generated in the solar plexus. That's the emotional feedback mechanism.
Okay.
Right? So all you got to care about is the emotion, about what you're thinking about. The thought itself, if you start thinking about the thought, then you're going to be thinking, and you're going to send out that energy
At
signal.
15 seconds, you realize, oh, I don't feel good. I must. And then you realize, oh, I'm thinking about this. Then how do you shift your focus? It's almost
Choose.
distract. Okay. Okay.
And that's the harder part, because again, if you've been on that frequency, and remember, we got recordings of, how bad life was and how abused we were and how victim, there's thousands of those recordings up there, and they have big ruts. So it's easy to fall into them before we have the awareness. Oh, I'm playing that old sad story again. It could be totally true. Yeah, I was abused in many different ways, and it's taken me years to get out of it. But that doesn't change the now moment. In the now moment, I can choose where to focus. And as soon as I realize that, so to answer your question, because you're really getting to the heart of something here. I think probably going to help a lot of people, as it helped me. The first thing is to realize that it's happening. Awareness, you can't make a choice without awareness.
Right.
So the first thing is to learn to have awareness about how you feel. I used to have a timer on my phone every hour. Some channel message said, check in every hour, just see how you're feeling. You're not even paying attention to how you're feeling. You're just bouncing around off the walls with all these random thoughts, not even caring about how they feel. So that was the first thing. Start caring about how you feel, and use whatever method you can to start tuning in more. Now it's natural for me. I typically don't go very far down a path without checking in, without realizing, oh, do I want more of that? No, I don't. Okay, what do I do now? So once you have the awareness that that's happening, now you can make a different choice. And the thing is that, about the momentum, if you're pretty deep in that rut, you can't just suddenly come back on that topic. You got to leave the topic, right?
Okay.
And that's where, what, as you say, mindfulness in some sense, some way, shape, or form. For me, I can go out in nature. I'm pretty good at catching it and releasing it mentally. Like, I built that muscle. But sometimes I got to go out in the backyard, or I got to go. Do we have a stream not far from here? I'll go there. Or I like to shop for the groceries and stuff like that. And because I'm the chef in the house, and it's one of my passions, and so I just can go to the store and buy a few things, and then as I do that, I start to feel good about where I'm. Like, I start to, like, I'm anticipating what I want. Like, this is going to be fun. I love to wander around the store. And then my vibration shifts automatically towards towards this energy, and invariably I'll get a front row parking place or right where I want to park. I'll drive up and somebody's pulling out. Why? Because now I'm back in the stream. The stream
Wow.
knows everything that I want and how to get me there in every now moment and is constantly sending it. And all I got to do is show up and listen. And then now I'm building that momentum. And if I just stay on that and don't let some, slow moving person in front of me or, catch me and pull me back off,
Yeah.
then I can really build that momentum. So you got to find your own path, but that's kind of the process that I use.
I absolutely love that. And I love how, even just the method of a timer could help people. Hey, set a timer on your phone, even every 10 minutes to start with, see how you're feeling, or every hour, see how you're feeling. If you want to challenge yourself for a day and maybe more moving forward, and you're able to kind of shift your mindset. It's funny because when you were talking, all I could think about is I have two toddlers. Whenever they get like upset, it's hard for them to transition. They don't really have the capability to really understand that yet. So if they're transitioning activities, they don't like it, I distract to the next thing, the
No,
next thing. So it's kind of like, it seems like almost like a similar vibe. It's like, okay, let me do something, like let me just do the dishes or the groceries, or just do something to just like that I need to do, but that'll shift me out of that. That's kind of
yeah,
something.
that's exactly it. That's exactly. I love to do the dishes at times too for that exact reason. It takes you out of the stream of this direction or that direction. And your toddlers are wonderful. Kids are wonderful. Mine's grown, and my wife has grandchildren. I have a 6-year-old granddaughter who just spent the weekend with us, and they are so good at, if you just dive into their playful energy
Mm,
and not get caught in, you got to do it right. You can't get dirty, all that stuff that she gets anyways from parents and whatever other family. And she and I just go out in the backyard and we get our dirty clothes on and you get in that playful energy is aligned energy. You're back into alignment again. And when she goes, she's very, very tuned to me. We were tuned at birth. She's one of my soulmates. When she suddenly starts getting antagonistic towards me, she's got a very strong personality. We're usually very loving and playful, but suddenly she'll start hitting me or
mhm.
something will happen. And early on, of course, I'm like, what the hell? And
Yeah.
then as she grew up, I started to see she was exactly reflecting me dropping. I was getting tired because she's got a lot of energy and I don't. And and in the getting tired, I was also dropping my vibration and back down into, stress and a little worry and feeling powerless or whatever it is. And she was just saying, don't go down there, Grandpa. She said, I don't want to be down there. And so what's up from powerlessness at the bottom? The Abraham emotional scale can be, I keep this handy. I can send this to you
I
guys
love
if you want it. Uh,
definitely.
takes you from the bottom. It's just a list of emotions from the worst, the most disconnected to the most connected. Down from powerlessness is anger and revenge and rage. And then you move back up to hopefulness and joy and so forth. But I was pulling her energy down because she doesn't know how to manage it, like you're saying.
Mhm.
And as I would realize this, then she's like, the next level up is I'm just going to get angry because your surrounding energy is pulling me down, and I know that I want to be up there, and so all I can do is the next thing up, which is get angry. That's the terrible twos are a perfect example of, because that's when they're starting to discover that their feelings and that this what feels good and not. And as soon as I realized that, I put my boundaries up. I said, "You're not going to hit Grandpa,"
Yeah.
and I then, which I hadn't done originally. I just thought, oh, kids are going to hit you. No, no. I'm going to teach you that you have boundaries and I have boundaries too. And mine are that you don't hit me and you don't do these kinds of things. Not mean, or just here's the boundary. And then, okay, maybe you want to go watch a little TV for a bit, and Grandpa's going to close his eyes and meditate for 5 minutes, or go
Yeah.
do the dishes or whatever. So I always now see that even though I take the hit and it sucks when whatever happens, it's like, okay, I have to own it as quickly as I can so that momentum stream doesn't happen. And they are reflecting that back to me. So she's been my greatest teacher in that respect for that reason. And we just have this really loving, fun relationship as a
Yeah.
result.
That is a reflection of many of my days during the day. So
I'm
it's
sure.
funny, I naturally in those moments will, put up that boundary, and then I'll, like you said, I'll go do the dishes, or I'll take a five, let them do their thing, watch TV for a second
Yeah.
so I can reset, because it just makes so much sense. I would have yesterday I was having a conversation. My he's in a nursing home, and he had a stroke 6 months ago, and it was touch and go for a while. Now he's actually doing better, but like last week they said he lost weight. He was just dehydrated, but that threw me for a loop. And what happened after that, my whole household got sick. So for like 5 days we were sick. And like it's funny. My husband's like, every time they get sick, I feel like they get smarter. I'm like, it's also an energetic upgrade that everyone's going through,
Sure.
the sickness. But it's just like the series of events was kind of just like all in the same kind of like, oh, like, and I feel like we just went through a huge reset out of that. And yesterday when I was on the phone with the nurse, my son was screaming the whole time. He was fine. When I was on the phone, he was screaming for the full 4 minutes. And it's just because he knew that was stressful for me. So it's so interesting how this is applied to everything. Everything you're talking about is applied to our entire lives because I think what you're speaking on and the most important thing is bringing us back into this moment, bringing us present, and from there, from we're able to get so aligned and magnetic that we attract things that are for our highest good and that align us with our true purpose. And I think
Yeah.
it's happened to both of us because we're in this field, in a way, right? There's still so much work that everyone always has to do, but to just get us to where we are, where we're on this path and showing other people, is huge because if one person is on this path of just like awareness, it just has a trickle effect, right? And
That's exactly it. Yeah.
yeah,
It doesn't take, and the thing is that everybody has internal guidance. Everybody is source energy at the core. Everybody wants to feel better. They've just been taught methods and in an environment where the opposite has been happening. With systems of control are in place, and they are in place because of the few who know how to invoke fear in us. And when you're in fear, you're not connected and you don't have your own guidance. And that's been going on for a couple thousand years in one form or another. And finally, as you said it perfectly at the beginning, we now have, I think even before we were recording here, the idea that there is the internet and interconnectivity. You get that spark of brightness from somebody, and that it spreads like wildfire because people have fed up with being controlled, and they're starting to see there is a better way, and it's inside of me. And how do I get there? Oh, she's doing it. She's lighting up for me. Let's
yeah,
let's listen to her for a while. Oh, she gave me a couple of tips. Now I feel better. Now I'm attracting something more. It's the law of attraction on the positive side,
yes, I love
right?
that because a lot of people see, obviously social media and the internet can invoke fear, but there's a positive as well, right?
Well,
And
let me interrupt you just for a
I
second.
know,
Sorry, yeah, the word invoke.
yes.
Yes, that assumes that there's something outside of us. And a lot of people, and this is not a criticism, it's an awareness that it took me a long time to really. I had lots of channeling sessions like, oh, well, so Kevin, you created this childhood thing. And no, no, wait, no, that was done to me. And now I'm in control. No, you created the whole thing from birth and you're creating it. And you got to get over the judgment that you have about yourself that you're doing it wrong. There's nothing that's happening to you, it's happening for you. And I still struggle sometimes with that. And sorry, I didn't mean to
Oh, no, no,
interrupt you.
it's because it's more of if you see something online and you take in the information and it like you become fearful because of that information, it's
Well,
because
no, that's not how it worked.
it's because you took it in.
No, it's because you were fearful and you were guided to that information.
Okay. Okay. That makes
Yeah.
sense. That makes sense.
And
So,
that's the neat thing about it because these are all reflections along the journey.
okay.
The first is the emotion, but usually we ignore that. Okay, so the next thing is something physical shows up, and then we get involved in that, and we ignore that, and then something even worse shows up. And at some point, there's a threshold point of our own pain tolerance, and
Yeah.
that's when we awaken in that on that. It's like what, and so the idea is to become more sensitive, is to dial back the sensitivity from the physical thing hitting you in the head as a reflection back to how am I feeling now, and am I going in that direction? Oh, I should click on this thing about all the death and destruction overseas. No, that's
Okay.
a reflection.
That
I
makes sense.
mean, it's subtle. What you and I are doing here is we're really fine tuning
Oh,
this
yeah.
awareness to the next level. And this is, oh, I get chills
Oh, no, me too.
doing
I've
it.
gotten told multiple times throughout a conversation. So I think what I'm getting to is there's this collective consciousness, right? We are all in some way, shape, or form connected through something, right? Just being here and existing. What a lot of people have been focused on and are currently experiencing based on perhaps what they had been focusing on is, I just want to say, like, the news, the like the energy of that, right? Like constantly showing things that create I don't even know how to describe it.
Well, they have the potential to because people
Exactly.
have been used to it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but the thing is that there's only one, they're like what we call a one trick pony. They got one trick, and that's to try to find the thing that induces a low frequency in the followers, and that's fear, guilt, unworthiness, depression, grief.
Yes.
It's and anger and rage and revenge are down in that frequency as well. So they broadcast those things,
Yep.
and then they also post themselves as the solution.
Right,
So
right, right.
right,
So
and so it's up to us to buy into it or
so what
not.
can we do? Because there's so many people that are just like kind of like under this shadow of kind of the way that things have been and how they like I always tell people just stop watching the news. Like,
It's a
like
great idea.
take a step back. I know it's yes, it's important to be informed on certain things. That's not what I'm talking about. It's like the constant like information, information. Then your feed reflects it, right? Like,
Everything, everything reflects it because your
yeah.
vibration. So
Okay.
it's noticing that it's just about you're the one driving the ship.
Yeah,
And
okay.
it's okay if you want to have some suffering. Sometimes a bit of more suffering creates more clarity towards what we do want. Because in the unwanted, you're always creating the wanted. That's inherent in the process. There's only the thing, and it's either wanted or unwanted. And we get stuck on the unwanted because we have this victim energy we've learned. And so then we tend to dive into, well, I should dive into the problem to find the solution. But when you're in the problem, you're creating more problem. So the
Right.
idea is to let the problem go or the challenge or the whatever and allow it to flow through and not give it your attention. And then now you open up to what you do want. Your idea of turning off the news, yeah, we did that years ago as well. And,
Yeah, I don't
there's,
know what's going on. Sometimes I'm like,
well, but that cool thing about somebody like you, Megan, is that you're so tuned in, you're such a channel, is that when you need to know something that's important, you'll be guided to it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Um, and there's one question that I think someone has, and I think it's circumstance. So, right, we're not a victim, but what if, for example, someone has a child and they are born like disabled and they pass away in within a couple years, or you like you get a sickness, you have cancer, and you make it through, but that experience kind of just like, how do you explain that? Or how do you explain those situations where you may not have created it, or was it, or did you when before you came down to
Well,
earth?
you create all of it. You
Okay.
are your universe. And it's hard to accept at first when you see suffering, particularly those who look like they have no defense,
Okay.
particularly the children. That's, everybody's heart goes out to a child who's suffering. It's one of the things that called me into the doing the work with the autistic non-speaking community is the
Oh, wow.
telepathic connection because they can't even tell you what's wrong,
Yeah.
and the parents are suffering, and yet then you say, well, what a horrible thing, let's eradicate autism. Well, you can't. Okay, autism is coming in as a way for some souls to come in and become even deeper teachers
Yeah.
than we've had in the past because we're not getting the message, and
Yeah.
so they come in a state where they need constant attention. And oh, by the way, they're all telepathic. They're all
Yeah.
talking to each other. And oh, hey, they're starting to pay attention. They're starting to show you that they know what you're thinking about. They're ones who start to speak through letter boards and so forth, who can describe a book that their parent was reading. This is all in a podcast called The Telepathy Tapes, which I highly recommend to anybody. It'll blow your mind as to where our species is heading as an evolution. And
Mm.
so the idea that they are in this ability, they've got this natural brain wiring that's open to love and source and connection, but their bodies, they're not in their bodies. So the bodies are, a lot of them are not functioning. Some are, some aren't. It's a spectrum. And so it requires people to be up close and personal to see this happening. And that's another teaching moment for the parents and for the people around. And so everybody comes in as from a soul perspective. Oh, I want to explore that journey. I want to help the collective in this way. That I want to know more about compassion by going through a lack of it. I want to know more about unconditional love by having only conditional love. I want to learn about whatever. You come in and create the situation that you want to learn about, and then you go as far as you can. And sometimes you get to the end of what you wanted to learn, your soul goes off happy. And other times you don't make it, and then you come back. I've been here 3 or 4 times dealing with my dad. This time I made it through. I made
Mm.
it past the huge barrier of emotional abuse,
Yeah.
and now I'm doing this work.
And
So
I
nothing's going wrong. Sorry, go ahead.
no, that I think, the last topic we should touch on is this, like, where we're going as a species. That's so interesting. And also, like, what came up was, the children and the frequency that they're coming down with is much higher than what we came down with. And for me, that means that we each, we're all energetic and we all have some
Well,
sort of vibration in our bodies.
every generation will be that way because they come down on the shoulders of the previous ones, the
Mm.
knowledge, the intuition, and so forth.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And that might be why some of these bodies don't work for the souls, because they're so high, right? It's like
Yeah,
it doesn't short circuit, but it's like it doesn't, like, you're just so high for this dense body sometimes.
it is. And
That
yet part of the one of the greatest things about this, and people say, oh, autism's a terrible thing. I think it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to humanity. Abraham predicted it 15 years ago. They did a DVD called The Autistic Revolution that was
wow.
on its way. Seeing that this is all, source energy sees what's going on, is that the other half of the equation is as as the parents, caregivers, step into understanding that they can become telepathic with their kids, because everybody is telepathic. That's what guidance from source is. That's what channeling is. It's the same radio, just a little different radio station. So it's the same thing we're talking about here all day. Is these kids are here to help them, and in the exchange, as we connect in whatever way, the parents help. Then the kids now start to learn how to get into their bodies. And
Mm,
some of these kids who couldn't speak are now speaking. And
wow.
some of them who couldn't move their arms and legs are now able to use spelling boards. So it's not a one-way thing ever. It's always a co-creation. So we're helping them explore life from a higher spiritual perspective, but coming down into the bodies. And again, this is a spectrum, so it's not all the same.
No, of course. And I
Well,
think, yeah, no, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, just the conscious awareness of parenting and children, I think, is a huge theme coming up as well, because it's that next generation, but they are so intuitive. Like, well, they could barely talk, but before they could talk, I just, I just knew. And it's not, it goes past like a mother's intuition. It's like it could be father's intuition. It doesn't matter. It's like they will, if you're in tune enough, you just know exactly what they need, exactly how they need to be nurtured, what they want before they can even speak. And it's so beautiful. I love this whole conversation, and we could talk forever. I think we should leave it at this for now, but you know, I would love to continue our conversation as well, and maybe perhaps on the podcast another time, because
Absolutely.
this is really juicy stuff for people. But Kevin, where can people find you and what are your current offerings?
I'm known as Intuitive Coach Kevin pretty much on every platform. My website is intuitivecoachkevin.com, which is a link over to personal success programs, which is my wife and I, our company.
Oh,
Um, I I don't really have offerings in the traditional sense anymore. I used to have workshops and online programs and stuff like that. And so now this is my year of exploration. People can come to me and go to that website, and if you want to book a private session, doing what we're doing here, but from a more a safer, quieter, gentler space to have an evolution towards their own reality expression, then we can do that. The biggest thing I'm involved in right now, which is calling me into something which hasn't materialized yet, is the working with the autistic uh, parents and caregivers of those on the non-speaking spectrum, to help the parents let go of these traumas. Because as soon as they find out, oh, my kid's actually in there, I thought I had this 2-year-old who's in an 18-year-old body. No, you have an 18-year-old. He just can't. He's got a 2-year-old body. Once they realize that, then there's a panic that sets in, a desperation, a guilt, like, oh, I should have known this earlier. I've been treating my child like a baby or whatever. Well, no, it was all the way it was supposed to be. But yeah, we can make you telepathic. Yeah, you can let go of all this guilt and fear, and you can open up to your children, and now you can start procreating a future for the two of you, or however many that are on. That really lights me up, and so there, I'm also an admin in a group called the Autism Telepathy Conversations Community, and that Facebook group has grown massively in the last year to about 18,000 members.
Wow.
And so, as you were saying, that this exponential awareness is all over the place, and so, anyways, that's where I spend a lot of my time with this community.
Oh, amazing. I can't wait to see how this evolves with your new trajectory. And all of the stuff you're doing is totally lighting up the world. And that's the purpose of the Omlight, is to put that focus on the people that are making the change and helping create this new earth. So thank you so much, Kevin. I
Mm.
appreciate it. Intuitive Coach Kevin, everyone. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, evening, wherever you are. And we'll see you guys next time. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please check out my socials at The Om Way on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Spotify. You can also find me at theomlight.com. Sessions are now open and available. One-on-one sessions are super helpful for anything you may be going through in your life to help you feel more aligned and clear.